Today's repaint will be Ruby Gloom. For my Ruby doll, I won't be straying too far from her original artwork. I'm going to use a Bratz Big Baby's Leah for her base. For those of you who are collectors, you may know that Leah is a rare doll. However, she is not in the best condition, so I don't feel like keeping her in my collection, and also I didn't order her. She has all these lip chips and issues with her hair and her cheek paint, so I don't have an issue customizing her today. Leah does have really long hair and it is worth saving, so I'm just sectioning her hair with these elastics and then I'm just going to cut them off. From Leah, I was able to get about 5 hanks of hair. It's enough to use for future projects, so I'm going to put them aside. For prepping her face, I'm just using 100% acetone and a cotton pad just to clean off all of her factory paint and makeup. I just let it sit over her face for a little while and then swipe away. The eyes are always really fun to take off just because you can get the perfect imprint on the pad. After the acetone, I wash her one more time with soap and water. To change her skin tone, I just use spray paint today. I use Krylon Color Max paint and primer in their color Flat White. After the spray paint was dry, I went in with Mr. Super Clear Flat and did 3 coats. With a gray charcoal pencil, I'm just mapping up her eye shapes. I'm using dots to mark where her high arch is going to be in the eye and also where the inner corner is going to be to mirror on the other side. I really loved all of the characters from Ruby Gloom. Their character designs were just really cool to me. Ruby was always kind of confusing because I didn't know if she was just a regular girl or if she was a doll. She looked kind of like Raggedy Ann and Andy growing up, so I always thought that she was a doll, so it just makes more sense to me just to have her as the first doll in the collection. I don't have any plans to make any of the Ruby Gloom dolls in the future. If I were to make any more, I would probably make her accessories or her friends like Mr. Buns or Doom Kitty, but the other characters I don't think would coincide with the Bratz Babies aesthetic. I was, however, thinking about making Mandy from Billy and Mandy and also Creepy from Growing Up Creepy. I just think the 3 of them together would be a cute little display, and they both work for the Bratz Big Babies aesthetic as well. Ruby's face up is pretty simple. I really only use black and white and just a little bit of pink in her cheeks. I'm using Derwent watercolor pencils for most of it. The only trouble is I do have to keep resharpening the pencils because I do want the lines to be very sharp, and her eyebrows did give me a lot of trouble as well. The swirls just didn't look good if they were too big or too small. I didn't want her to look angry, and I also didn't want her to look anxious either. I think I found a good medium, but I don't know, you guys let me know. Even though Ruby's character art is pretty simple and straightforward, this doll actually took me a really long time to finish. I want to say about 6 months. I didn't even order this doll. Actually, I ordered a Bratz Big Babies Jade from a seller on Macari. The seller accidentally sent me Leah instead and sent my Jade to some other buyer. I really didn't know what to do with this doll. Leah doesn't fit in my collection, but I didn't really want her to go to waste. So I decided to pick a character that I really loved and wanted to have on display, and that was Ruby Gloom. I feel like Ruby was a very fitting character for this doll just because Ruby always seems to make lemonade out of lemons. Ruby also had this song called Look on the Bright Side or the Barely Enough Light Side, and I felt like that was fitting for this character and the situation as well. After all the basic shapes are laid out with the black pencil, I'm just going in with a white charcoal pencil just to clean up any lines, and then we'll put in all of her white dots and eye shines. For her eye shines, I'm just using acrylic paint and a dotting tool. At the end of this dotting tool is just different size Swarovski flatback crystals that I just dip in the paint so I can make sure that I have the perfect size on each eye. I always thought that Ruby's eyes were really cool. Even though she has a lot of eye shines in them, it never seems that it's too shiny and they photograph really well. I really had to make sure that the dots were even. Ruby doesn't really have irises, but the eye shines kind of let you know what direction that she's looking in. If they're kind of off center or not in the right spot, it kind of makes her look a little cross-eyed. For her mini manicure, I just used a little bit of acrylic paint on my tiniest paintbrush that I had. For Ruby's bottom lashes, I just used these crystals and some super glue to put them in place. These are just little teardrop crystals that I got from Hobby Lobby in a mix of other different gems. Ruby has very unique lashes, and it just didn't look good if I tried to draw them on, so I decided to add this 3D element to it. Now onto the clothes. Here you see me gluing on her stockings. I make most of my dolls where the clothes are not removable, so I have no problem gluing the stockings on. I do apologize, in making this video I did lose a lot of footage, including the footage of me making her dress and also coloring her tights. For her tights, I just used cotton fabric and a Posca marker to make the stripes. I remember her having orange and red tights, but in more recent artwork it looks like she has orange and yellow tights. I'm not so sure which one's correct. For her shoes, I'm just using her Bratz Big Baby shoes she came with, and I'm just coloring them in with a black Posca marker. I do seal them about 3 times with a matte sealant as well. I find with Bratz shoes it's really hard to figure out which one is left and which one is right. I hope I put them back on the right feet, I'm not entirely sure. But they just slide on like normal. I didn't spray paint her feet because again I don't remove my doll clothes, so I didn't have an issue with just leaving those her natural skin tone. But they just squeeze right on, and then I ruffle up her tights just to make them look more worn. Moving on to the hair, again I do apologize. I did lose all of the footage of me attaching the hair to her scalp, and also I apologize for the camera angle. This is the best I could really do, I'm sorry. I also couldn't find my hair straightener, so I am using a mini iron just to put the hair in the right direction. I'm putting down just a little bit of hot glue and then molding the hair towards her head. Her hair is made out of acrylic yarn. It's 100% acrylic yarn in both colors, orange and pink, and I just blended them together to give her a little bit more dimension. Growing up, Ruby's hair color is normally a little bit more red, but my TV for some reason showed her hair always an orange tint. I know it makes sense that her name would be Ruby and her hair would also be red, but I decided to go with orange today because that's what I remember. For the iron that I'm using, I just got it off of Amazon. I'm making sure that it has no steam and a very, very low heat setting, just to make sure that I don't burn her hair, and I want to make sure that none of the glue seeps out on the outside either. After the back of her hair is done, I'm going to move over to the sides and the face framing pieces. I've already wet and pre-gelled it, and I'm just cutting it off to make sure that the points are a little shorter than the rest of the hair. I'm going in now and I'm separating her hair into small sections that are going to become the spikes. I'm using just regular rollers that you get at the beauty supply store. I'm gelling the roller so that they stick, and then I'm also gelling the hair. The bottom roller I am rolling under instead of over because I want these pieces to frame her face instead of sticking up. So the top two rollers curl up and the bottom roller curls down to create her spikes and her face framing pieces so that you can see her on the side. Also, I wanted to make her bike because I love the name of the bike. It's called a velocipede or a penny farthing, and I just thought that's cute. I, however, did not make her bike because, like I said, this doll took 6 months and that bike would have taken another 6 months, and I didn't want to do all that. And now I'm just taking some sewing pins to stabilize the curlers, and I'll let this sit overnight to dry. With a high gloss varnish, I'm just glossing her lips and her eyes. I was originally just going to gloss the eye shines, but I think her whole eye looks better if we shine it up. I'm going to do her top lashes now. These are just lashes that I got at the beauty supply store. They are very, very big, which fits the eye shape. I do recommend, if you want to use human lashes, make sure that your doll's eyes are the right size for these lashes, or cut them down. You can double them up, but I feel like that's a little too big. For these lashes, I am going to make them a bit spikier. They are fluffy, but I want to make sure that we have these sharp points. So I'm going in with some Fabri-Tac glue on each of the lash, and I'm going to pinch each individual lash cluster to make little spikes. You can use other glues for this. I just find Fabri-Tac works a little bit better for me. It gets tacky faster and it also dries clear. I feel like Ruby has 2 rows of lashes. She has a short row and a long row, and these are just to represent the long row at the top. This is a very slow process. You need to be very patient with it. It is going to be incredibly sticky. Off camera, I do have a baby wipe that I'm just using to wipe off my fingers. Sometimes I rub it on my hand, but the baby wipe does help a lot. It makes your fingers just a little slick while you're doing it. And I do recommend going section by section. So I did the first 4 and I'm going to do the last 5 now. I think it's really funny that I make all of these specialty lashes for my dolls, and I don't even wear false lashes myself. If you have a lot of dolls lined up and you want to do this, I recommend you doing all of the lashes at once because of how time consuming this is. This clip is a little sped up, but it truly took me forever to do both lashes. And here you can see the difference between the treated eyelashes and the non-treated eyelashes. To attach the lashes, I'm just going to be using PVA glue. You can use any type of glue that you prefer. I just like PVA glue. When I apply it, I want to make sure that it's just a little tacky on the lashes and on the lash line as well. I apply them like you would regular lashes. After the first layers of glue are dry, I take some more PVA glue and I run it along the bottom and top of the lash line as well, just to make sure it's super secure and won't fall out of place. And lastly, we are going to make her earrings. I know Ruby doesn't wear earrings, however, I thought this would be really cute as a little nod to Skull Boy. These are just little skull beads that glow in the dark, and then I'm using some push pins in black just to make the little studs above them. And with the earrings done, it's time for final shots. Ruby took a long time to make, but I feel like she was worth the wait. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening along to my first voiceover. If you have any suggestions for any videos in the future, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!